For a very long time, I wanted to make the classic falafel sandwich on this channel, and today is the day we are making some fine falafel from scratch, of course. But on my little research trip for this video, I found something that might even be a little bit better than falafel. Let me explain. I go to Israel every year to visit my grandma, and I have had some amazing falafel over there. But this time there was one shop in particular, the legendary Johnny's Falafel, that I wanted to visit. So I pull up the place on my phone, I follow the instructions, I find the place, I go in, but then... can I get one falafel? Just regular?
No falafel. Eggplant, potato, egg and salad.
No falafel?
No falafel.
Okay. Okay, salad then. Let's take that. Yeah, eggplant is good. Turns out I walked into the wrong place, a place specialized in something called SABICH, which looked pretty amazing. So naturally I ordered one, and boy did I not regret it. Check this out. That's much better than I expected. Turns out this was one of Tel Aviv's most popular SABICH shops, and I am so happy that I walked into it by accident. We'll get back to that SABICH in 1 second, but we are here for falafel, right? So the place I was actually looking for in the first place, Johnny's Falafel, happened to be right next door. And you know what? Yes, it is as good as everybody says. Hi, can I get one falafel, please?
Spicy, yes?
Yes, please. No problem. I have no idea what these two are. That is the first time I'm seeing something like this. Wow. It's cheese. Oh, it's cheese. Johnny's Falafel. And you know, no big secrets there. Super puffy and light falafel balls, good quality condiments, and a fresh pita. That's all you need. And this will also be the benchmark for today's recipe. But let me be honest here, that super succulent and juicy SABICH, that was at least on the same level. And since falafel and SABICH have so much in common in the way they're served and what they're served with, I say we just make both today. I've made pita on this channel before, but today I want to try a slightly new approach. We begin with a simple yeast, warm water and honey mixture, which we're gonna give a few minutes to bloom until it's all puffy like this. In a large bowl, we first combine flour and salt, add our yeast mixture back in, a good drizzle of olive oil, and then we mix everything until a rough ball forms. We're gonna let this guy rest for about half an hour, after which we give it a good knead and rest it yet again in an oiled bowl for up to an hour or until it's doubled in size. We divide the dough into 8 equal parts, shape those into balls, roll them out, not too thin, and then put them into a ripping hot cast iron skillet that I preheated in the highest setting on my oven, which is where the pita goes in now for really just a few minutes, 2 to 4 I'd say. The pita should come out puffed up and only very slightly browned on the top side. Fresh pita is absolutely unbeatable, so tender, and pro tip, keep it well covered so it stays nice and soft. Now we move into the beautiful world of veggie condiments. The first will be a coleslaw inspired by the Lebanese Malfouf Salad, and the second will be the so-called Israeli salad, which really could be any country's salad because the ingredients are pretty much cucumber and tomato. You'll find the precise ingredients in the description. This one is really too easy to show you guys. Another really simple element, which I do want to show you nonetheless, is tahini or tahini sauce. There are many methods to do this, but today I really want to show you the simplest way. To your tahini sesame paste, simply add very finely minced garlic, salt, lemon juice, and then stir until it gets really thick. At this point, just keep gradually adding water until your sauce reaches the desired consistency. It should be liquid enough to be drizzled over things, like falafel. Let's get one thing out of the way first. If you are making falafel, you absolutely have to rehydrate your own chickpeas. The canned stuff is pre-cooked and it will make for some mushy and very, very disappointing falafel. The good news, all you need is a little bit of time. Legend has it that the first falafel recipes actually come from Egypt, where mostly fava beans were used. So in addition to chickpeas, I'm gonna add about 1/3 of those. I think it works really well. Cover those with water and let time do its magic overnight. The next day, we're ready to make falafel. And now, to just a small portion of our beans, we add a roughly chopped onion, garlic, coriander, and parsley. But what would falafel be without spices? Basically just crispy hummus, right? So I like cumin, coriander, and green cardamom, but you can definitely choose your own style here. I also like adding some sesame seeds into the mix, of course, a good pinch of salt and pepper, and some baking, which will do wonders for our texture, really puffing up that falafel. And now we blend. With a small-ish food processor that can be a bit cumbersome. You might need to scrape and shake to help this fairly dry mixture, but you'll get there, my friend, don't worry. Now, don't overblend your falafel mix though, you only want it to be fine enough so that it just holds its shape when pressed into a ball. Okay, look, it's important to let this mix sit for at least an hour. And that's not just for flavor. The starches will come out of your raw beans and help create a somewhat sticky mixture that we will now be able to shape into falafel. So how do we get these beautiful falafel patties, you ask? Well, with a little help of this, a falafel spoon. You can sometimes find those in Middle Eastern supermarkets or online. If you are serious about falafel, definitely consider getting one. This is definitely the superior way to work, and after just a few minutes of deep frying on each side, we get absolutely gorgeous, crispy and airy light falafel. Now I assume you're kind of pissed because I sort of cheated with this falafel spoon. That's okay, you can also use an ice cream scoop. Just make sure to fill it very tightly or your balls might fall apart. Mastering this barely sticky falafel dough is really the key to great falafel. And look, I know some recipes address this crumbly problem by adding a little bit of flour. Don't do that. Here's a much better hack to rescue your fall apart falafel, a boiled potato. We grate and incorporate that into the falafel mix and get a really smooth and easily scoopable mass. Much easier to handle. So easy in fact that you can totally just shape it with your wet hands and feel very proud. So this potato hacked falafel is a bit different in texture but still very light, a bit moisture, and I actually feel that the potato even helped to carry all those spices through the falafel. But hey, remember that SABICH sandwich? Yeah, at this point it is super easy to make as well for us. You basically just need to slice up some eggplant. Round slices are fine, but since I recommend removing the skin which doesn't soften up during frying, we might as well go all in and cut those into aubergine steaks. Skin off, of course. Give those guys a good fry from both sides until golden brown, and don't forget to sprinkle with salt like me. Hold on, here's something interesting. Falafel itself might be super popular in Israel, but it's also a little bit misleading to say that it's from there. Israel is very young and falafel is very old and popular all across the Middle East. SABICH, however, that is a different story. So that pre-fried eggplant, along with some boiled potatoes and an egg, maybe with some spicy amba sauce, which we'll get to in a second, that used to be a typical breakfast for Jewish people in Iraq. In the Jewish religious tradition, no work can be done on a Shabbat, on a Saturday, and cooking was work. So this kind of old-school Jewish meal prep was the solution. And legend has it that in the 1950s, an Iraqi Jew named SABICH had this glorious idea of stuffing all these things into a pita with condiments. And this is how the SABICH sandwich was born, a true Tel Aviv Jewish classic. So we got our two salads ready to serve, but one thing is missing: pickles. It's probably totally fine to use store-bought Middle Eastern pickles, but come on. These are my homemade Lebanese pickles. I'm sharing the recipe to these with my Patreon supporters this week, and you know, they really make a difference. Just delicious. And now we're almost ready to go, except there is one other thing. We need fresh pita. So next to these homemade ones, which are still quite fresh, I have some store-bought pita. But in both cases, there is one thing you can do if your pita is not 100% fresh. Let me show you. I know you will probably think I'm not quite right in the head or something, but I want you to just hold that stale pita under running water for a second and then drop it into a 200 centigrade oven for 5 minutes. With this weird little trick, your pitas will not only come out dry and maybe even newly puffed, they will really gain a second life. Try it sometime. And yes, they're clearly very hot, so don't burn yourself. Anyway, let's get down to business with a good drizzle of tahini, malfouf, pickles, Israeli salad, and as many falafel balls as you can get in there. Quick note, I know it's a thing to put hummus in your falafel sandwich, but to me personally, that's a little bit too much chickpea in one meal. So I prefer to just, Yeah, I just go for an additional drizzle of tahini instead, and I highly recommend adding some amba. This spicy mango chutney is a very tasty and quite underrated condiment. It's pretty hard to buy. I made a knockoff version that I'm also sharing on Patreon this week, just saying. And look, I think that is one legit looking falafel sandwich. A first, highly biased taste test confirms it is delicious. That's why I love falafel. But what about that sabich? So to a well-tahinated pita, we add at least 3 of our super juicy eggplant slices, along with a few slices of potato and egg, veggies, more veggies, sauce, and oh my god, sabich is life. The juiciness of this sandwich is completely unparalleled, and I think it's better than falafel. Please discuss, and I'll see you in the next one.
This video was brought to you by Andong's epic Patreon supporters. Don't forget to subscribe and smash the bell for weekly food inspiration from all over the world.